So I want to shift to another team that just clinched a spot in the postseason, and that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady. By hook or by crook, unbeknownst to me how it's happened, but you look up at the results, and the Bucs defeated the Panthers yesterday, 30-24. Tom Brady led the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to clinching the NFC South and a postseason berth. He and Mike Evans led the Bucs to the postseason in one of the most improbable seasons for them and probably for Tom Brady in his career. And it's kind of hard to imagine if we were to reverse the clock and rewind, go back to the start of the season and say, okay, when we look ahead to week 17, that matchup between the Bucs and the Panthers at home at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, that's going to be a meaningful and significant game that will have lasting and reverberating impact on the rest of the season. I think it would have been hard to sell us on that type of importance 17 weeks ago. But here we are. And it did come down to that game for Tampa Bay. And what happened? We saw, obviously, the GOAT play maybe his best game of the year. I would argue his best game from start to finish of the season. Mike Evans finally emerged out of the cocoon that he'd been asleep in one of those hyper pods, those sleep pods that just put you to sleep. And all of a sudden he woke up in week 17 and Brady and Evans seemed to be on the same wavelength for the first time all year. They had this weird disconnect all season and yet started to find the rhythm again in this game. 10 catches, 207 yards, 3 touchdowns for Mike Evans in a game in which Tom Brady eclipsed over 400 passing yards on 75% completion percentage. 0 picks for Brady. This was, again, a tremendous individual and team performance. But again, we've seen stranger things. We've seen stranger things this season with the Bucs. And this is why they're such an enigma and such a perplexing team, is because we can't get to the bottom of them. The Minnesota Vikings, we said that sometimes they can be this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. We're not sure what type of game, what type of team we're going to see. The Bucs are a very similar type of team, except they've got the main difference in Tom Brady. And this is why they are a thorny mess to deal with in the postseason. Is because, yes, I know the defense isn't playing great. They really don't have a pass rush. Their secondary, while getting healthier, hasn't been the healthiest this season. Kind of banged up. Their offensive line is pretty broken down. They don't protect Brady that well. But they bought him enough time yesterday. And if they can continue to buy him more time, there are rumors Ryan Jensen, their original starting center, could be returning off the IR soon. He comes back, shores up some things in the offensive line. Now, who knows? And Brady and the Bucs, at the bare minimum, get to host a playoff game, and it's either going to be against a Dallas Cowboys team who the Bucs have had their number really going back to the last 2 seasons, or a Philadelphia Eagles team that the Bucs dismantled in last year's wild card game. So they'd feel very comfortable going up against this Eagles team that's banged up right now. And that's the situation that they're in. Brady was brilliant. I thought Byron Leftwich, he called a lot more aggressive play calls, a la Bruce Arians, a little bit more Bruce Arians-esque in that respect, which was something that, for whatever reason, either they were incapable of calling these plays or they were reticent to do it. But regardless, they returned to a more aggressive air raid style because, again, the Bucs have the worst run offense in the league, and they couldn't generate anything on the ground yesterday. But this is going to be a tough out because of that guy, because the mystique and the aura still pervades now that they're in the postseason, especially if he's on the same wavelength as Mike Evans and he becomes a main threat. Now that opens up some creases for Chris Godwin. Cade Otton still has room to grow, but he is becoming a better and better tight end. So, again, not sure how it happened and not sure why it came down to the very end for the Buccaneers, but they're in the postseason. They're in the postseason, and that's all that matters.